And that's the start. Hello and welcome back to In the Court of the Wenton King.
Bom bom.
What are we doing?
We're doing another album, Presents,
Yeah, Presents.
by Led Zeppelin.
By Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
This time.
Shock horror. Incredibly violent.
Robocop. After the tour, they went on holiday. Plant and his wife and somebody else went on some holiday to Morocco or somewhere like that. I can't quite remember where. And they were in a car crash. So Plant was out of action, and thus in '76 they got together. Plant could still not walk, and they had to make an album in very difficult circumstances, and they had little time. And this was made in 2 weeks or something, I believe, something like that. It is considered by most to be the album where they lost their way, and it is my favourite Led Zeppelin album. Oh no! Oh no! Let's start with the first song. Achilles, Last Stand. As I said, my favourite Led Zeppelin album, and this is my favourite Led Zeppelin song. 10 minutes of awesome. It is Jimmy Page's, in a way, Jimmy Page's greatest achievement. This is compositionally a huge complex piece, but not just a huge complex piece. It's fast and it rocks. It rocks like Iron Maiden, and yet it's John Paul Jones and John Bonham were never so dynamic. It is incredibly bleak. It is incredibly bleak. The sunshine, the sunshine of Houses of the Holy, you know, all that happiness has gone. And Jimmy Page's ice pick guitar solo, probably I think his best guitar solo.
Okay. Well, first thoughts about the album as a whole, as I approach the album, is Physical Graffiti is a pretty awesome piece of work, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
And there is a slight worry when you look at it, eight tracks I think it is, 7 tracks.
Yeah.
There's shades of this about that. It feels a little bit, oh my god, are they going to lose their way again? Well, I'll approach it a little bit.
Trepidation. Yeah, they're following up the big double album.
Yeah.
Which is a difficult thing.
Okay, Achilles' Last Stand. I don't think as much of it as Kev obviously does. I was quite gobsmacked when he said this is his favourite Led Zeppelin track ever.
Mm-hmm.
It is a good track. I think it encapsulates the album particularly well in the sense that, well, it's strange. First of all, we should say it's strange to start the album on an epic.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, and in many ways overshadows the rest of the album.
Yeah. It does have immediate appeal, which is important, I would have said, for a first track we've mentioned before. I mean, you consider Custard Pie on Physical Graffiti, you know, that's a really good introduction to the album.
Yeah.
But I think the thing with Presence is, when you're listening to it, you have to, it's not an album you can put on in the background.
No, certainly not. No.
If you're listening to this while doing something else, you're not going to get any, well, you'll get some enjoyment out of it, but you won't get everything that it's got to offer.
Yeah, definitely.
Achilles' Last Stand is a great sound if you're fully confronting it and listening to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty much everything throughout the album.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Which is probably why you like it so much, Kel. I mean, you've listened to the albums all so much that you have to dig a little bit with this one, and when you do, you get the rewards. And quite often, that's the most satisfying music.
The second song, For Your Life, may be more typical of the album. It's funky, but there's a darkness to it. The lyrics obviously are about, you know, the drug culture of the music industry and all that stuff, and they've kind of come out the other side. So it lacks the diversity. That's the big thing. There is a style to the album, rather than having all these different things on it. It has one style to the album.
No, it starts off well, but there is a point I get to where I think this is too long, and then it steps up a bit. It's over 6 minutes.
6 minutes 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of drones on. Now it's okay again, as I say, if you're fully confronting the music, you find out that that's not a bad thing. But if you are sort of not fully confronted, it can sound a little bit monotonous towards the end. And when it actually picks up at the end, it's really good.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's gone on too far, and you've kind of lost interest by that point.
It's a good song though. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the next song is Royal Orleans. Royal Orleans, very funky, and I think this is the great example of where, to a certain extent, this whole album, the Red Hot Chili Peppers made a career out of this style of stuff. Very funky, bouncing along, and this is. It's evident in the whole album, but I think this is a good example where it's like for a year, just for 1976, not 77, they were just better musicians. They're far more dynamic than they were at any other time, particularly John Paul Jones and Bonham. There is some fantastic rhythm playing on this album.
You can tell that because the bass seems to be a lot higher in the mix.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a band. You're not listening to the Page and Plant band. This is a band. Partially because Plant is subdued.
I mean, this was. Am I right in thinking this was about John Paul Jones falling asleep and burning his hotel room down?
I think so. Yeah.
Plant wrote these lyrics in retaliation for something John Paul Jones said. In that he said something like the lyrics are the least important thing and the last important. So he wrote this as a bit of retribution, where the story is John Paul Jones took a transvestite or a ladyboy
I don't know,
to his hotel room and fell asleep with a joint in his hand and burnt the hotel room down. So a bit of a mixed mosh of stories, but the fact that John Paul Jones would say that to Plant, and I don't think that's contested, just shows how confident John Paul Jones is at this point.
Yes, absolutely. Well, he nearly left a couple of times.
Really? But Royal Orleans, it's a short ditty.
It is short, yeah. So, the next side is Nobody's Fault But Mine. This is one of the most famous songs on the album, other than Achilles' Last Stand. It is really a funky tour de force. It does what Black Dog is supposed to do times 10. The syncopated rhythm section is so fantastic, bouncing around all over the place. Great song. Lyrics are from something traditional, Nobody's Fault But Mine, or It's Nobody's Fault But Mine, or whatever it's called. Blind Willie Johnson was the guy, obviously, but the music is Led Zeppelin. It's definitely Led Zeppelin.
This is my favourite song on the album. It's probably one of my favourite Led Zeppelin songs. This would certainly go on. So I did my own sort of like best of Led Zeppelin. Right. This would be on there. Yeah, because it's just brilliant.
It is.
It's well timed. It ends. It doesn't get beyond itself. At the start is really interesting.
Yeah.
The sort of and it's nobody's fault. Yeah, I think sort of Robert Plant's vocals are most noticeable here, and on that first line, it sounds actually sounds kind of 80s-ish for about 7 seconds.
That's interesting.
That first, it's nobody's fault but mine, in the sense that it's quite low, it's quite suppressed.
Nobody's fault but mine.
And then he can't. I couldn't. If I just heard that, I wouldn't probably be able to identify it as Robert Plant. But that first line, because straight after that it goes into Robert Plant territory, and it's all awesome.
Yeah.
And that.
It's a brief little bit of sunshine. It's not so bleak as it fits the album very well in stylistically with the funk, but it's not quite as dark as the other songs on the album, I think. Candy Store Rock. Candy Store Rock. It has a nice little bit of guitar at the start, and it is more like the direction they were going to go in. There's maybe a bit of rockabilly to it, so it's slightly different to the rest of the album. There's an effect on Plant's voice, so it's a kind of cod rock and roll thing going on. It's quite funky rhythmically, but there's not much happening.
I think Robert Plant said, "Thank God for Candy Store Rock."
Really?
Yeah, I don't think he was very happy with Presence at all. But he said, "Thank God for Candy Store Rock." I
can see that. I can see him liking it because of the sort of rockabilly thing.
Hooray! Hooray!
Hot Song for Nowhere. What can we say about Hot Song for Nowhere? Chink 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 chink, and then it goes chink 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 and then it goes chink 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 chink, and there's the diddly 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 diddly. It's awesome. That's all I can say about it. I think it's just fantastic rhythmically. The stop starting is so tight. Even Jimmy Page, who's not famed for his tight playing, is just on that song.
Well, this is his album, though, isn't it? Really?
That's what people say. Yeah, it's the Page album.
Saying that, you would.
I think it's just because it's not Plant's album. Plant's very subdued, and the vocals are not great on this song. But really, I think it's the band album, and they've sacrificed the diversity and that sort of sophistication of being sort of cultured musically for listening to the band play.
I haven't got anything interesting to say about Hot Song for Nowhere. I'll listen to it, but I wouldn't. It's not a song I would direct someone to listen to say this is Led Zeppelin.
Well, neither would I. It's one of my favourite songs, and neither would I, unless they were very specifically into that kind of thing. Sort of.
I mean, you're a guitar player.
Yeah.
And you have a different appreciation for these sort of things than me. I'm more interested in the themes and the overall thing. I'm not really interested in how complicated thing is. I'm not really interested in that it stops on time and is really tight. Tired from sitting down.
Finally, T for One. Now, T for One. It is rare for Led Zeppelin to repeat themselves. Now, you could argue that on this album they've already done that 5 times with one style of music. And here they have repeated the style of Since I've Been Loving You. Is that a bad thing to do? I don't think that's a bad thing to do. I think it's an awesome thing to do because they've developed, they've matured, and this is a more sophisticated Since I've Been Loving You. And when they played Since I've Been Loving You live during this era, it sounded like T for One. But it's a bit like Star Trek: The Next Generation. It is in many ways superior.
Yeah.
Never be as recognised as the original.
That's the trouble with triples. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like the bluesy things anyway, and I appreciate it's a bit of an epic. It's quite long.
It is, yeah. It's a bleak epic.
Yeah.
Lonely epic.
And it's nice, like this one. This is holy. They're sort of looping back on themselves. So the first track's an epic, the last track's an epic.
Yeah.
There's a nice symmetry about that actually works, which I didn't feel worked too well with Houses of Holy, but this works.
A slow blues about loneliness and being away from people, and and that's how it ends. That's profound.
Yeah.
That is Presence, the bleakest album. Do you agree? The bleakest album.
It's pretty bleak. I mean, you say that, but that's not what screams out at me when I think about it. But then again, it's not bleak like Radiohead's bleak.
Yeah, and I mean this is something that's influenced the Chili Peppers. The Chili Peppers aren't bleak.
Yeah, I mean it's not bleak in the sense that it's slow, because it's still Led Zeppelin. It's still fast.
You get the sense of where they were at the time. They were in a difficult place. They're all had their own addictions and difficulties with fame and all that stuff, and that's what the songs are about, and that's the vibe of the album. Because it was made so quickly, it's just a snapshot of where they were at that point. So join us again
next week.
Next week,
same time
next week for more fun and frolics, talking about how bad things were for In Through the Outdoor.